Welcome to the first OPSQC podcast, providing information to help startup and acquisition entrepreneurs, innovators, and business owners scale their businesses to profitability. I'm your host, Jared Warwick. For our very first guest, I have the pleasure of welcoming Chad Babcock of Boise, Idaho. Chad is the founder and creator of Tumbletime Gymnastics, Jumptime, and Soccer Time. Chad is also one of my lifelong friends and was a roommate of mine in college at Western Michigan University, located in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Go Broncos. We both competed on the men's gymnastics team together, and Chad went on to become an NCAA All-American, also an inverted aerial ski jumper and what he calls a glorified carny. Chad is a person I would describe as passionate and goal-driven. I mean, this guy's all in whatever he puts his mind to. Over the course of this podcast, I'll be asking Chad to shed light on his experience in starting and growing an extremely solid business, the effects of the recent pandemic on his businesses, and share with us his visions of the future. I know whatever industry you personally are in, you'll be able to pull some helpful tidbits or inspiration from our conversation. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chad Babcock. So Chad, let's jump right into it. Let's give the listeners a little bit of background, the businesses you've created.
My original business was a bus, which was called the Magic Tumble Bus, which is a gymnastics gym for 2 to 6 year olds on a converted bus where it took all the seats out of them and turned them into a mobile gym. And I drive from childcare to childcare and teach gymnastics. The tumble bus evolved into Tumbletime Gymnastics, which was it's a 12,000 square foot gymnastics facility with preschool, before school, after school, camps, and cheerleading. And the crazy part why that developed was we were trying to find more equipment for our tumble bus program. And one of my daycare clients said, they called me Mr. B. Mr. B, this small gym is going out of business. You should go see if you can buy their equipment. So Katie, my wife, and I went down and checked out the gym. And I said, hey, we would like to buy your equipment. And the owner at that time, Casey Lewis, said, well, if you just take over my lease, you can have all the equipment. And at that point, I did the math in my head, and there was like $40,000, $50,000 worth of equipment in there. But he only wanted me to lease it for 6 months. So I'm like, okay, I have a glorified storage unit for 6 months, and then I'll take the equipment and leave. Well, what actually happened was we got in there, and Katie at the time was teaching Spanish in the public school and decided that she wanted to leave and do something else because we were about to start to have a family. So Katie came into this little gym, opened their Rolodex, called everyone in the Rolodex, and the first week we had 60 clients sign up to be in our small gymnastics gym.
Excellent.
And it took off. So now we had 3 tumble buses. We had this small gym. We ran it for a year, and we got so busy, we leased the space next to us, did that for 2 years, and then eventually we bought a piece of property and built our 12,600 square foot Tumbletime Gymnastics building. And that was in 2005. We carried on with the tumble buses and our new gym and our new preschool for about 3 years. And that's when the thought of jump time came into play. I was between classes teaching. I had a bunch of trampoline classes. I love trampolines. And I was on the internet looking at YouTube, and this space came up that had just full of trampolines. It was a trampoline park, and it was out of Colorado. And I was like, wow, what is that? And it was 2008 when there was a recession going on, and there was lots of big buildings available for cheap prices. So I looked at real estate, and I'm like, price is right. And my son and I traveled around the country looking at these. At that time, I think there was only 5 trampoline parks, some in Colorado, some in Washington. And we went to these parks, and I'm like, let's do this. So we found a building, and didn't know how to do it, but I had a gentleman named Joe who did a lot of construction for me. And I said, Joe, I have this crazy idea. I want to build this trampoline park. You know how to weld. I don't. Can you help me? And he goes, okay, let's try it. And literally our first park, we opened up in October 30th of 2010. It took us about 6 months to build this park. And it was amazing. And then you asked about soccer time. We ran soccer time was put in to the Twin Falls building just because I had extra space. At this point, someone else has leased it from me, so I don't have to do anything besides collect rent, which is awesome. And they still run the soccer program, pickleball, and they do some big events.
Awesome. Very cool. So it sounds like if you look at how many years you've been doing this in total, would you say since like 97, 98?
Yep. So my first business was 1998. That was the Magic Tumble Bus, and I sold that to an employee, but everything else is still up and running, and it's 2021 almost. So almost 2 years. So
you have a parent corporation that is over all these, or?
We have, originally it was Magic Tumble Bus LLC, and eventually that fell underneath Tumbletime Incorporated, which Tumbletime Gymnastics falls underneath. And then the Jump Times, there's 3 of them. There's one in Meridian, Idaho. There's one in Twin Falls, Idaho. And there's one in Bozeman, Montana now. That's our newest one. And they all fall under their own structure or corporation, and they all have LLCs underneath them.
Very cool. Very cool. And so what's your total employee head count for all the facilities, would you say right now?
Probably about maybe 60 employees, I guess. It kind of fluctuates depending on the season. Colder, wetter times we need more employees because people want to be inside in this area. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're maybe in Arizona, the summers are busier there because of the heat. But yeah, we have about 60 employees.
Very cool. Very cool. As far as affiliated groups, so I know you're affiliated with EO Idaho. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what the EO Idaho group is.
Yeah, EO is a worldwide entrepreneurial group. It's in almost every country now. It's business people within the community that either you have to own the business to be in it, and you have to make a certain income to be in it. And then once you're in there, it's amazing. The connections are huge because there's people all over the world. Everyone in this group wants to share with you. There's lots of educational opportunities, which are super neat. It's been it's a great program, EO. It's called Entrepreneurs Organization.
That's awesome. I know we've talked about that in the past, and networking is key when you're an entrepreneur. So that avenue, I know you've talked about it multiple times, at least to me in the past, and it's it's actually helped you a lot, got you a lot of great connections, helped you grow. One thing I do want to let the listeners know, there was an EO Talk 2017 that Chad did give a presentation about his business, and that's a great video to look up on YouTube. I'll put links actually later in the transcripts and on the website that refers to it. And basically you talk about your main tenet of it is fear-driven success for that talk, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Are you a member of the local chamber?
I am not. I am not here in Boise. Someone once told me that unless you're going to really be involved with it, it's not right for you. If you're going to be involved with it, then join it. So
chambers are interesting because it's good networking opportunities depending, what business you're in. A lot of small business people have different avenues of getting things done. But chambers got to be active. I know here in my hometown, McHenry County, the chamber is extremely active. Frank Hostica, who is in charge of networking for the chamber, he's been a great resource for me. But I know not every place is the chamber as active as they are here. So that's interesting. Okay, so great. So we know who Chad is. We know about Tumble Time. We know about Jump Time and Soccer Time. So that gives us a good base for the listeners. So we can roll into the Q&A, which is more company specific. So when you look at your company's value proposition, right? I was trying to kind of frame this in my head, and I was looking at it as you really provide a great environment or outlet or a safe environment too for kids to release energy and increase motor skills and gain confidence. What do you and what does your team look at as what is the value proposition of your businesses?
Our motto is happy, healthy families and communities. So we want it to be a happy, fun place for everyone. We also want to be involved in our community because we are part of the community. And when you're involved with communities, it helps with success. Sure. There's a lot of places out there that aren't so community driven. And in my mind, that's hurting them. Where if you involve the community and you are struggling or need help, the community tends to jump in and help. So happy, healthy family, fun, and communities.
Happy, healthy families. Pretty cool. So where did the idea come from? Like when you were back in 1997, and you're trying to come up with the idea of what to do. I mean, what drove the idea and why not work for someone else? Right?
So I did start out working for someone else. My degree, I'm a teacher. That's what I went for school for. And for 2 years, I taught PE in first grade and fourth grade. And I love teaching is my favorite thing. The challenge with that profession for me was the amount of income I had. At the same time I was teaching, I was living in Park City, Utah, trying to make the U.S. ski team. Got overwhelmed with school training, and I decided to, and I built up a bunch of debt because when you're trying to ski and live in Park City, it's expensive. And so I decided to hang it all up, and I traveled the world for 2 years doing professional ski shows. And while I was doing that, one of my coworkers came from the gymnastics world as well. And we're like, what can we do besides travel? I mean, the travel in the world was great, but we didn't make any money. Sure. I made enough money to pay my bills. But anyways, Brian, my friend, he talked about doing a gymnastics gym or possibly doing a tumble bus. And I'm like, a tumble bus, what's that? And he told me about that idea, which I explained earlier, which I called the magic tumble bus. So one weekend I drove from Park City to Greeley, Colorado, and visited owner of a tumble bus and fell in love with the idea, moved back to Boise, built my own tumble bus. And that's where my entrepreneurship started, really, because I didn't do much as a kid as an entrepreneur, but as soon as I moved back to Boise, bought my bus, built it with my family, drove it. I mean, it was a huge success. Within the first year, I had 3 buses. So that's where everything stemmed from.
Reminds me, I remember when you were looking for the buses, and you and I talked, and we made some trips together looking at some buses, and it brings back some fond memories there. It's pretty cool.
There's a place between here and Twin Falls it's a bus lot. And every time I go by, I get that exciting feeling like, oh, I'm going to buy a bus. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've already done that.
Awesome. So how was your business originally received? Like when you look at the Magic Tumble Bus, like what was the original reception and how did you deal with it?
I'll try to, there's 3 main ones I'll throw out there. So Magic Tumble Bus, there was nothing in our community like it. I mean, I went and like I said, within the first year, I had 3 buses and 3 employees, and I was overwhelmed, but it was amazing. People loved it because with a tumble bus, you'd pull up to their facility, you'd stay there. The kids would walk out of the building, get into the bus, do the lesson, and get out. And there was no transportation. We had an awesome program. It was quick, easy, and the centers loved it. So that one was a huge success. Gymnastics gym at that time, there was only a few gymnastics gyms in the area. And when we built our new facility, it took off huge because we were the only one on that side of town. So that was great. It fed the needs of that community, that side of Boise and Meridian. And we had a great program. We still have a great program. And then Jumptime, again, we were the first trampoline park in Idaho. And we were actually the 25th park in the world, which is crazy to me. And the only reason I know that is because once these parks started up, ASTM insurance companies basically got together with these parks because there were some issues with people getting hurt. And they asked me to be part of that ASTM, make the standards for trampoline parks. And and the trampoline, literally we opened that, and within 6 months, I had to lease another spot to make it bigger. Say that again.
Seems like you've always been on the forefront of these types of activities. Would you call yourself a visionary?
Sometimes I have to step outside myself and look in. So when I do that, yeah, especially for new, great and fun things for people, I love that. I'm more drawn to that kind of stuff than I am to I'm going to go open a movie theater, because there are already a lot of movie theaters. But again, like if you look back now, we're still the only tumble bus in town. There's per capita, Boise has the most gymnastics gyms, so there's a bunch of us here. And then trampoline parks. Again, I was the first one in Idaho and the first one in the Treasure Valley, and now there's 5 others in the valley. So I like to say I'm a trendsetter.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Here's a tricky question for you. Did you create a formal business plan prior to jumping into this stuff, or was this kind of back of the napkin or snap decisions?
So start with the Tumble Bus. My first business, I did all the great business plans. I went to learn how to write a business plan, read the books, went to business people, went to the SBA, did all that stuff, and went to the bank and presented it. And all they would tell me was like, "Oh, that's a great idea, but you haven't been in business before, so we can't give you any money." Luckily, my grandpa loaned me $20,000, got me going. So Tumble Bus, yes, I have super formal business plan. It was awesome. At least I thought it was awesome. And then for Tumble Time, when we built our new gym, which I had a formal plan because I had to go to the bank. But when it came to Jump Time, I did not. At that point, I'm like, no. I'm just like, I went leased a building. I used cash in hand. I had to look at stuff, and it was more so on the back of a napkin or scribbled down on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because that's a real touchy subject when I talk to different people about their businesses. Because what they teach you in all the schools and everything is you need a formal business plan. I personally just read a great book by Carl Schramm. It's called Burn the Business Plan. He's a former president of Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation and co-founder of Global Entrepreneurship Week and Startup America. He's also a Syracuse University professor that teaches entrepreneurship back in, close to my hometown in upstate New York. So it's interesting, like, vetting that, learning from the book off of somebody who's actually lived it. So,
well, the important part is, a formal business plan has so much detail in it. And basically that formal detail typically is for the person who's going to loan you money.
Right.
As long as you know what you're spending, how much you have to spend, and have it written down so you know it, it's pretty easy. But a formal business plan this big, after you've done it a couple of times, you can you do it in your head.
Sure.
Numbers are important. Comparing who's your competitors is important. But if you're not borrowing money from anyone and you can do that yourself on a napkin or wherever, that's the important stuff.
Sure.
Know the numbers.
With the numbers you've thrown out, I kind of look at you as a bootstrap entrepreneur, right? You basically finance your startup by going to your, family, your grandfather. He loaned you the money. It was a relatively small amount of money by many people's standards, but it was enough to get you up and going. What was your payback period on that 20 grand loan?
Oh, I had my grandpa paid back within 6 months, maybe even 4 months. Because as a business person, to me, it's important. Well, the only debt I have in my life is our mortgages now. Everything else I pay off. So, and I grew up with my family. You don't want to take loans out unless you need them. And if you need them, you should work harder and save the money and then use that. So with my grandpa, I got him paid off quickly. And now with our other businesses, our main debt is our mortgages. So.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about pricing models, right? How did you come up with what you were going to charge for admission or, the services of people going to Jump Time or Soccer Time or whatever? How'd you come up with those pricing models, and were you accurate right out of the gate, or did you have to refine it over time?
So starting with the Tumble Bus, there was a few kids activities that went to child cares. There was a music class and a dance class and maybe an art class. So I collected that information and saw what they were charging. And then I wrote all those down, and then I figured out what my expenses were and what my loan paid back to my grandfather was going to be. And I did it. I think we started out at $22. So that was basically $5.50 a class. And I based it on the amount of kids that I thought I would have and went from there, and it worked out. And over time that price raised up. And what was kind of cool about it is we raised our prices. The dance and music classes raised up. So we were all within each other. Mm-hmm. So it kind of helped that the kids had options, but no one was extremely more expensive or less. So made it really easy. For gymnastics gym, same thing. We compared prices to what was around us. You have to know what your expenses are, and then you have to know what you want to pay yourself. Mm-hmm. And then the trampoline park was probably the hardest one, Jump Time, because there was nothing like it. I could compare myself to movie theaters, to arcades at that time. There was ice skating, there was some roller skating. And then over time, what's raised trampoline park fees is insurance, because the first 5 years of trampoline park existence, insurance companies didn't know where to put it. They were put it in the category of gymnastics gyms, which is insurance policies are a lot less expensive than what now is a trampoline park insurance. And insurance for trampoline parks and mortgages are probably the two most expensive cost for that. So again, that's knowing your numbers, knowing your expenses, and crossing your fingers.
It's an important thing to note. You're benchmarking against the other people around you, right? You're making sure that with your expenses, you're going to be competitive at that price point. I think what a lot of people do out of the gate, which is incorrect, is they come in with a lower price point, trying to just sell based on cost, and then it becomes a price war for other people generating those same services, and you really kind of as a environment, right, for that industry, they start diluting what the collective can get, right? So it's really important to understand your price point so you don't mess up the rest of the industry you're with and in. But it's important to know if you're competitive and can pay your bills or not. So that's good learning.
So on that same thought, Jared, so I was the first trampoline park in Idaho and the first one in the Treasure Valley. Now there's 4 or 5 other parks here. Mm-hmm. And we've had to tweak our prices a little bit. I am the only non-franchised trampoline park in Idaho. Mm-hmm. So the other companies that are here have franchise fees. And then one of the parks literally just down the street from me is the biggest franchise in the world. And a big thing that's happened with trampoline parks for pricing is they're doing memberships. Mm-hmm. And these huge franchises have put some crazy low prices on memberships. So watching your competitors, especially the exact fields you're in, is super important. And sometimes you can't compete with them that way, but what you do is you outsell them, you outwow your clients, and those clients aren't afraid to pay a few extra bucks because the experience is so much better.
Yeah, and knowing your competition is important because as they take those tactics and they start to dilute the margins that are in the industry, you can evaluate your competitive advantage a little bit better at that point. So looking back on your growth, right? Looking at, because it sounds like you've been in pretty much growth mode from 97 through the last 20 years. I mean, up until maybe this year, right? Mm-hmm. At what point did you really feel like this thing was on a trajectory to really ramp up and grow? And was there a pivotal moment that you said, hey, this thing's really taken off and, this is working?
Let's start back with Tumble Bus too. So Tumble Bus, I didn't know how fast that would grow. I mean, I literally had 3 full buses. A bus would do 150, 200 kids per week. And that was just crazy. I was like, wow, I was overwhelmed. Wow. I was new to business. I was learning every single day. And then it transported into Tumbletime, and that grew. And it's been a flagship for us, or a solid place for our business lives. Jumptime, on the other hand, so let me go to the date. So about basically 98, we started Magic Tumble Bus. In 99, we started Tumbletime Gymnastics. In 2005, we built a brand new 12,000 square foot facility, which housed Tumbletime. In 2010, we opened Jumptime Meridian. In 2012, we opened Jumptime Twin Falls. In 2013, we opened Jumptime Boise, which is now closed. And then in 2014, we opened Soccer Time. And then in 2017, we built a brand new 40,000 square foot facility, which now houses the Jumptime Meridian facility. It's huge, state of the art. It's amazing. And then in 2019, we opened Jumptime Bozeman, Montana. And then COVID came, and COVID's really put a tweak in our I mean, now we're in survival mode. Mm-hmm. And we're in,
So that's a great segue. One of my questions a little bit further on into this is how the COVID economy has really impacted you and your business, right? It's hitting small businesses. It's hitting business everywhere very hard, but small and medium-sized businesses make up a big percentage of the overall businesses here in the U.S. and it actually carries the economy about 40-45% of the economy. So you as a small business owner, medium-sized business owner, and your service industries that you're really in, How have you dealt with that? What's the impact of that?
Well, I can speak for my locations where I'm at, but I'll talk a little more about other locations as well after this. So in our location, we were shut down for at least about 2 months, and we got some of the PPP money. During those times, all we did was clean, fix, make things shiny, try to keep as many staff on as we could. Mm-hmm. We tried to prepare for the unknown because it still today changes every single week, especially in our community. We're in a level 2 right now, which means you can have 50% of your capacity. And honestly, if we even get 25% of our capacity, we're excited. And what's controlling that is you have the people who don't care about it and they're going to show up no matter what. And you have the other 50% who are scared of it all, which that's, you're at 100%, but the people who want to jump, come jump. The people who don't come jump. Mm-hmm. But anytime the CDC or the government says something about it, it scares people and it slows us down again. Mm-hmm. And we're down 40 to 50% compared to last year. Yeah. And honestly, if you look at other places in the country, some places have not even opened up. And here's the problem with trampoline parks and COVID. Trampoline parks are 30 to 80,000 square foot big buildings. Mm-hmm. And we're being told to stay outside, not go around people, and social distance. Well, that is a nightmare for movie theaters, trampoline parks, big boxes that they're telling you to stay out of. So it's scary, and it is kind of survival mode right now. It's scary.
There's it's interesting because over the last 9 months since COVID hit, I've worked with a variety of different companies, and what I found, my personal experience, and actually a team of at least 20 other people, is as long as we're following the cleanliness precautions, we're wearing our masks and everything, nobody in our organization at least was affected. I know other people, you can't control what people do outside of work, and that's always an unknown factor. But, I think there's a middle ground here that a lot of people are missing, or, needs to be considered, because as we can't, this is not a process we can keep going down indefinitely. Something's got to change. It's almost like at some point the cure is worse than the disease itself. So, people need to make some decisions on, where they want to, be a couple years down the road, because this is going to have some lasting effects, right? COVID, knocking down your business, 40 to 50%, that's significant, right? Impacts your ability to pay your employees. You might be going out of pocket for a lot of those expenses.
It's hard to grow.
Doing business, added expenses long-term that you weren't originally counting on when you're running your business model. So it's significant, and there's got to be a strategy behind that. So,
and that's we are strategizing every day. Our last meeting on Tuesday, we were trying to get excited for Christmas and the holidays and do these fun events. The problem is tomorrow we may be shut down, or there might be a restriction that we can only have 20 people in the building, and that's the hard part. And I have an amazing staff, and they've adaptability is one of our core values. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And they're rocking it. I mean, it's challenging. I had one of my members say, I'm trying to be excited and do all this hard work and get everything planned, but if we don't know if we're going to be shut down tomorrow. I mean, that's the scary part.
Uncertainty. Yeah. And maybe after the call, you and I can talk a little bit more about that. And, we can, maybe brainstorm some ideas. I got some things I can share with you. Definitely COVID's a huge impact. So let me ask you this, thinking back to starting each of these companies, right, in the different positions you're in, what was the biggest challenge in your mind to starting your business, and what did you do to overcome that?
My personal biggest challenge is borrowing money. It's out there. That's the scariest part for me. And sometimes that holds me back, and I might not spend the amount of money I needed up front, and then I'll have to spend it later. And as I've grown and starting business, I'm starting to realize that spend the extra 10 grand, spend the extra 100 grand, because down the road, it makes it so much easier. So I would say that's my number one challenge.
I always say, and I've lived through this in the startup world myself. It's when funding is not available or financing is not available, you tend to make short-term decisions that you wouldn't have made, certainly looking at a longer-term view, right?
Yep.
So
Oh, yep.
Speaks really to that. So, here's a little quiz for you. I need you to complete this sentence for me. I couldn't have done it, or I couldn't have done it if it weren't for blank. And I need you to fill in the blank.
Wasn't for, I have several answers. One that wasn't for my grandpa believing in me and giving me that loan.
Sure.
For Joe Kennedy, who believed in our vision and still helps me build our tramp parks today. And he's learned a ton. And from the support of my wife and my family.
Yeah, that's really key, is the support group, right? Between your grandfather, Joe, Katie, your wife. That's having a good support group that really encourages you and believes in you. Absolutely a must, right? You got to get that positive energy for those days that you don't have it, because you're a high energy guy. I know that. I mean, I've been around you enough for over the years. But even high energy people have their times where you just feel kind of a little bit defeated that day. And it's good to have somebody or people there, more than one, to really kind of help lift you up, right?
Yeah.
So your family's involved with the business, I believe, right? How is your family involved in your businesses?
So I pretty much oversee all the jump times, and Katie, my wife, oversees Tumbletime Gymnastics and Education Center.
Okay.
And then my son and daughter's first jobs have been working for us because we make them, or we're short on staff, but they've been around the businesses so much that the jobs we put them in, they can do right away, which makes it nice. So
start them early, man. Start them early. So what's the outlook for 2021 as we turn into the new year? What are you thinking?
Oh man, I want to be optimistic because there's no other way to do it. If COVID starts to, go away, or we get a vaccine or something, it's going to be great because people will want to come out. Mm-hmm. It's going to be money management. It's going to be employee morale. It's going to be believing that there's going to be a change and we're going to succeed, because it's tough.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you can predict, I think it's kind of easier right now. I think Saul Kahn from Khan Academy, I was watching a podcast he did. He actually made a great statement. He's like, it's almost easier right now to predict 2025 than it is 2021. And 2021 is right around the corner. So we're living in unique times, right? You got to do unique things. Different question for you here. Looking at marketing channels, right? If someone was going to be in your arena of business, what marketing channels prove superior than others?
Ooh, so we're always dealing with this. So if you start back in 99, when we first started, it was all paper print, magazines, billboards. And as time has gone by, the internet showed up. I mean, it was there, but then there was internet, your websites. And now the newest and greatest is social media, all the platforms from Facebook to any social media you can think of, advertising on any of these YouTubes or anything. I mean, it's all social media. And the challenge is you can get a report that says, oh, this went to 10,000 people. Well, unless your employee, when they walk in, Jared, you walk in and I say, oh, hi, Mr. Work. How'd you find out about us? And you might say it was a drive-by. You might say it was a friend. You might say, oh, I was on Facebook and it popped up on my screen. You might say, we'd still do some paper print, but it's very little. Mm-hmm. So marketing is so tough to unless you add a coupon with it and they have to bring the coupon with them or show you on your phone, and then you put that in your POS system. Tracking is the number one thing you have to do for marketing to know if it works or not. And I would say that's always been a challenge for us, because originally when we were the first of everything, when you're the first of everything and you market once and it's out there, you don't have to market much after that because it's all word of mouth. But for example, the gymnastics gym now and Jumptime, there's a lot of competitors. So you have to constantly be marketing. Say that again?
Do you outsource your marketing?
We do have a guy that does a bunch of Facebook stuff for us. Yes. We have a pretty nice location in Bozeman and Meridian. So we're kind of on a location. If you hear that, if you have a business, that is actually true, because we have lots of drive-by, which is awesome.
Absolutely. So presence, like the outside presence of Jumptime, the outside presence really kind of draws people in. Having something that really piques their interest, or, you know, really communicates what you do, right?
A big building on a corner.
That's right. Kind of jumping back a little bit, one of the things you mentioned before, you said you had a unique experience, I recall, about being on the ASTM committee, helping develop the insurance standards for trampoline gyms. Being a visionary, being at the forefront, definitely opportunities like that present themselves, right? When you look at that, how did that experience come about? Was that something they reached out to you, or you reached out to them? How did that develop?
I got a call one day from someone, and they're like, yeah, this is so-and-so from a trampoline park. And I had met this person, and I was like, oh, and they was like, well, we have a unique opportunity. You are the 25th park in the world, and we're asking the top 30, the first 30 parks, to come together once a month and develop standards for, it's called ASTM, for standards for trampoline parks. And I'm like, well, I said, I don't get it. Tell me what you mean. He goes, well, what's reality is happening is every Joe Schmo is building a park, but there are no standards, meaning there's no safety precautions. Sure. So, and that program still goes on. I'm not involved in it anymore, but I was involved for the first 5 years of it. And we made the standards from depths of pits, distance from trampoline to hard rails. I mean, there's a million. We'd meet every month, once a year. We'd meet together to have a big conference. It was actually it's, you know, stepping outside myself and looking back in, it was a really cool honor to be able to help with those standards. And they still evolve. They're still evolving. And, you know, how many people can jump on a tramp? How many people can be in a trampoline park? How many tramp guards or tramp monitors do you need? So it was pretty neat. And I still know all those guys. I made a great that's where networking really happens. Mm-hmm. And now they actually have trampoline park conventions, which is crazy to me, because there was nothing like that before. Now there's some pretty cool things going on.
You still involved with them?
I know most. I don't participate in it anymore. Mm-hmm. But I know most of the people that are in it, especially the original people. It's kind of fun. So it's really neat to have those connections.
I know you're a big guy in community and giving back to the community, and you know the community supports you and your companies, right? How do you give back to the community?
We do a lot of things with low income centers that need help. We'll give them free jumping. We do fundraisers for, if you donate, you come in and donate to the Humane Society, you get $1 off, and then we donate all that money to the Humane Society. Every quarter, we try to have some type of community service. There's one called something about diapers, where there's a lot of single parents who can't afford diapers. So we do a diaper drive, and nice. We pass those out, which is kind of neat. Each month, each quarter, our facilities pick someone to donate money to, and there's so many out there. I mean, so we do that with the community.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to give back, definitely. So is there anything you wish you knew back when you were first starting out with the Magic Tumble Bus? The one thing that kind of comes forefront of your mind that you think would have really, like, you know, been an exponential driver towards getting you to where you are now? Is there anything you look back when you said, you know, if I had just known X, that would have made me get to this point that much faster, right? It would have really solved a lot of my pain points.
For the trampoline, I'll go to Jumptime, skip the other two for a second. Jumptime, I would have expanded a lot faster than I did. I would have expanded outside the state probably, and to more cities. I was slow. I did it slow again because I don't like taking out loans. I try to only have debt and mortgages. So I would have expanded a little quicker that way. I would have hired a few more people to help me develop this quicker. Mm-hmm. As well. One thing I did do, which took me a while, was until my third or fourth year of owning Tumbletime, I finally hired a bookkeeper because I have a buddy who's a business guy, and he says, Chad, it's going to cost you some money. It's going to save you time and stress. I said, his name was Ben. I said, okay, Ben. And I did it. And oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it was a game changer. I didn't have to think about it and worry about the bookkeeping side of it. So hire those core accountants, bookkeepers, administrative staff or secretaries as soon as you can, because it's going to make your life a lot easier. As long as you're working on the business and not in it, hire those people. They're working in it, and you can work on it, and you'll grow quickly. And that's what I would say is hire the important key people as soon as you can.
And the biggest thing that kept you from doing that, more or less, was your resistant to financing. You didn't.
Well, for Tumble Bus and Tumble Time, I thought I just had to do it all. I mean, that's, again, I didn't come from the business world. I don't have a business degree. Yep. I just thought, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to work hard, keep doing this. And finally I'm like, well, I'm still going to work hard, but give someone else the job of paying bills, writing checks, secretarial stuff that I'm not good at. I'm really good at creating and driving, but those are not my expertise. Hire someone who's good at that.
Like you said earlier, sometimes you got to take a step back and step out of yourself, kind of look at the bigger picture and say, hey, what does this really need to grow? And, that's where those types of things come to light. So
Jared, it's kind of, sometimes you have to let go of your ego.
Absolutely.
Someone can do this better than me.
Imagine that, right?
Now.
That's right. You broke up a little bit on that last. Yeah. What was that last sentence you said? You there?
I said sometimes you got to let go of your ego.
Absolutely.
Because people can do, a lot of people can do things better than you think you can, and it makes life a lot easier when you let go of it and know that someone's better at that, and you can concentrate on what you're the expert at or what your strengths are.
I can give you many examples of that from my own experience and from companies I've done. So, last question I have for you, Chad. How can someone listening help you and your business grow further, or help you and your business in some way that you see some gaps?
We always like marketing ideas.
Okay, so marketing is a key area.
If you're watching this, especially during this time, go support your local businesses. I mean, local businesses need it more than anything right now.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that statement. Totally agree with that. That's all the questions that I had, Chad. Is there, anything else you want to add? I mean, it's been a pleasure catching up, learning about your business, very, detailed. And I appreciate you taking the time, but anything else you want to add before we sign off?
If you're a business owner and a leader, build your staff up. And I say this, and it's hard to say it, but build and be a great leader. Even though we don't want to lose our great leaders, but if they choose to, that they're going to be in the community doing great things.
Support them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Chad. This has been really fun for me. I hope you feel the same way. Maybe
it's been
some
awesome.
Point after a little bit of time, if you're growing even more, we can have you back and you can explain some of the newer challenges you're facing, or some of your newer experiences. I'm sure outside of this, we'll be talking, having fun, outside of this forum as well. So
definitely.
In closing, right, I hope all of you listening out there have enjoyed this first podcast from OPSQC. If there are certain people you want me to interview from your community that are noteworthy or unique, that you feel entrepreneurs and small business owners can learn from, please send those recommendations to info@opsqc.com. That's info@opsqc.com. If you're interested in advertising your business or products with us to get more exposure, feel free to reach out to us via the same email. Thanks again. Stay healthy, be safe, and be productive. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with our next guest. Thanks, Chad.